What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another members only Pure Potential live stream. I'm here with you guys tonight on this wonderful Friday evening. We've got NFL playoff football kicking off tomorrow. And I'm here to talk Dynasty. You guys came in with a lot of good questions tonight, so wasn't a whole lot of prep for me to do other than just write down some of my thoughts. So I always appreciate that. Honestly, this is a time of year that for me, I'm so wrapped up in like playoff contests and also just sort of decompressing from the stress of the season that I'm not terribly active in my leagues for the first few weeks of January. I kind of go into like hibernation mode. And so it's been challenging at times to kind of wrap my head around certain questions because I'm just like not in the right headspace for it. But I think I need to get into some of my leagues, kind of make an off-season plan for them, maybe start sending out some trades, because I do find that the content is easier when I'm kind of pulling from my actual experience and the actual moves that I'm making. So something I've noticed, but I am excited to get into it. Of course, there is stuff that doesn't necessarily involve, trades or transactions. I am going to be doing like a free agency overview. I need to get into some of the 2025 rookie class stuff. So there's a lot to be excited about. I don't know if anybody is sending chat messages yet. I haven't seen any pop up here. I don't know if that's on my end or if that's just you guys not doing your part. But let me see here if I can pull that out. Okay, yep, it's on me. I see that you guys have in fact been participating in the chat. So that's my bad. Let me just grab this. We got Rowboat 27, Freelster, Austin, HM, and Yellow Dog all in the chat already. There we go. That's the first one that showed up for me on my little. I have this like third-party app that sends all the chats into OBS so I can put them on the screen, and they weren't popping up, and I figured out why it is. So that's all set. You guys can jump in with questions, comments at any time. I'm going to start knocking out these questions that were posed in the Discord, the ones I actually prepped for, and we'll just go from there, and we'll see how long it goes. At the end, I'm going to fill out my NFL playoff bracket, not because anybody asked for it, just because I thought it would be fun to do it on stream, how I kind of see the NFL playoffs shaking out. But anyway, the first question came in from Mulpete, and he said he's got Goff, Penix, Darnold, and Young on his dynasty team. Gonna have to go ahead and assume that's a Superflex league. He wants to know who he should trade away in the offseason for picks or to strengthen the rest of the team. He does say he has Darnold and Jefferson as a stack. So I'll say right off the top, I don't care much about stacks in dynasty, especially when the quarterback that is part of the stack probably isn't the starter for that team the next year, which is still my position about Sam Darnold. What's up, Theo? Welcome in. I see your question, Robot. I'll come back to that in a second. So of these four quarterbacks, Goff, Darnold, Penix, Young, for me, I still think the most likely outcome is that Sam Darnold gets a massive contract from another team that is not the Vikings and goes there. So I don't know which team that will be exactly, whether he goes back to the Jets, whether he goes, maybe the Seahawks are done with Geno. They want to try again with a different quarterback. I don't know where it is. As far as I'm concerned, once he leaves the Kevin O'Connell ecosystem, he becomes a very scary asset to me. So if he gets that huge contract and that is perceived as like a value boost in the industry, that's the guy that I would be looking to ship off and probably try to cash out for basically any first that I could get at that point. Maybe you can get more. I'm not sure what the sentiment's going to be, but he would strike me as the immediate one. The other one would be Michael Penix, and that's not because I'm worried about him. He looked pretty good, and he's obviously going to have some leeway going into year 2 with just a couple of starts under his belt. But I do think that the hype machine for him might get a little out of control this offseason, with the narrative being like, just looking at what he did in those few games, because he has such a small sample, and he had that big shootout game with the Panthers. His reputation from college. I suspect that we could get a hype cycle for him that pushes him up unreasonably high. And I think with those 4 quarterbacks you have, I would be open to flipping him for a high-end asset at a different position, just because I think he has a limited ceiling, right? Not that he can't. Obviously, we have pocket passers that have very high fantasy ceilings, but the needle that you have to thread to be a Joe Burrow is so incredibly thin. Whereas you look at someone like Drake May, because of how much he scrambles, he doesn't have to be a top 5 passer in the NFL to be like, a league winning quarterback. Penix does kind of have to be that because he is a statue. And so if people are going to hype him up, as far as I'm concerned, his absolute dynasty ceiling, or like projectable dynasty ceiling, is to be like Jordan Love. And so I just think if we're going to get him, even into the ballpark of that after watching him play like 3 or 4 games, I'm going to be willing to let someone else make that bet. So those would be my 2. Goff would normally be the one that I would say, hey, let's sell high off of this season. That's kind of what I said in the video this week. But I think the other 3 quarterbacks you have are so kind of uncertain with Darnold, Penix, and Young. I don't know if I'd want to be left with just those 3. Goff kind of makes sense as the stabilizer there, but you could always pivot Goff. You could trade down from Goff, quote unquote, down into like a Dak Prescott, pick up a plus on top. There's nothing that says you have to stick with these guys. So that would be my thoughts there. Let's go back to some of these chat questions. Rowboat says Tracy for McMillan straight up. I still prefer Tracy. It's getting closer just because McMillan has been so impressive in recent weeks. And maybe I'll live to regret that. But I think, Godwin is probably going to come back, and I don't know exactly how it's going to shake out with the 3 of them in the offense. I think Tracy has a clearer path to being like a real impact guy. So I would still keep Tracy for now. I'm pretty high on him. Kevin says, are you at all concerned about Chase Brown facing touch competition from a rookie? Yeah, I think it's kind of like a guarantee he's going to get some touch competition. I don't think that the Bengals plan is to give him the 90% workload again. I know that the Rams did it with Kyron and then they kept doing it. So maybe that's possible, but I think most teams just don't want their backfield to work that way. And I think it was a necessity with Zach Moss going down, Khalil Herbert being new to the team, getting worked in. I think it's pretty much a guarantee they're going to go out and get somebody. That doesn't mean Chase Brown can't still get 65, 70% of the touches and still be an RB1 in fantasy. So there is absolutely some risk that he gets nuked. And so depending on where his value is going to be in the market, I might be advising people, hey, people are not factoring in enough risk with Chase Brown. You should go and sell him. I just don't know where people are at right now because it's so early. But yeah, there is definite risk of them bringing in a high-end rookie that really hurts him. There's also risk. I guess there's free agency risk. Really what you'd be hoping for is that they would go out and sign somebody like a Zach Moss from this past offseason, somebody who's just kind of a body, someone who can pass protect, who's kind of a plotter, and then you would be confident that he was going to be that main guy. If they go and draft another running back on day 3, I'm not going to be panicking. But if they invest, reasonable draft capital into a running back, I think that would really hurt his value. as a former day 3 guy himself. HM says, are you buying Marv and Rome in the offseason? Is Jalen McMillan a sell? Kind of worried about Godwin coming back. Well, I did just talk about Godwin. He might be a sell. I mean, if he has a really, really strong playoff run, it's possible that he'll be a sell, because honestly, before this most recent game, I don't think that his peripheral numbers were that strong. He was really just catching a bunch of touchdowns. Like his targets per route run weren't that insane. So, and that was with Otton out, right? That was basically just Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan and nobody else in that receiving core. So I'm not sure. It's possible people could get out over their skis with him. I'm going to have to take a closer look into what he was able to do with Godwin off the field. But like I said, with Godwin coming back, I think their skill sets do kind of overlap a little bit. So that is a concern for me. And you can look at where I have him in the rankings and see if you think that that's fair. But I don't think he's going to get up into I'm going to struggle to get him up into like the Addison, Zay Flowers type of range, right? Which is kind of the next big jump that he could make. Austin says, can you talk about the best way to get running backs? I have a bunch of great wide receivers and picks with no running backs. Thinking of targeting the Henrys and Mixons. It's very league dependent. It just depends on your league economy and how much they value the position. I would say in most leagues, you want to go out and be the first. You want to be the first person to identify the team that is going to blow it up and rebuild. That can be big for you, because a lot of times those teams will have like the one good running back and they need to get that running back off the team. And so if you can be the first one there, you can get that running back off their team. I've had success doing that a couple of times. That's obviously a pretty specific scenario. Otherwise, I don't think your idea is bad, right? Going out and trying to get these older running backs at a discount early in the offseason, it's not unreasonable to go and do that. I just wouldn't go overboard and go add a bunch of guys, because some of them are going to get nuked probably. And you don't want to find yourself super overweight on those fragile older assets, right? But yeah, if you have great wide receivers, you have picks, you have like a high value team, you can start the year out with kind of a bargain bin running back room, right? You can start out with just cheap guys, whoever you get out of the like James Conner, Chuba Hubbard, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, whatever two of those guys you can roll into week 1 with. Teams are going to fall off throughout the year, and you can actually upgrade running backs throughout the season sometimes. You can kind of leapfrog from one running back up into a better running back. Like I was able to acquire Barkley in multiple leagues in season just by flipping assets that I already had. Teams fell out of the race. They were rebuilding, stuff like that. So I think you have a lot of avenues there. Sorry, I did miss the first part of your question. Are you buying Marvin Rome? These questions are always hard for me to answer when I just don't know what their offseason costs are going to be. My guess, here's what I would guess. I think Rome, I probably will, because I don't know how strong the priors on him are going to hold his value up. Marv, I'm not convinced that he's going to drop enough in value for me to be interested. I think people are going to make a lot of excuses. I think people are going to twist themselves into a pretzel and say, actually, Marvin Harrison is great. It's just that Kyler Murray sucks. But I'm going to go buy him anyway, even though he's going to have Kyler Murray again next year. I think people are going to be kind of irrational about him. And it's not that I don't think he can bounce back. It's not that I don't think he can be a lot better next year. It's just, I'm still seeing people arguing whether it's Marvin Harrison or Ladd McConkey, right? And I'm way, way past that. Like, it's Ladd McConkey, right? He's more valuable. So if people are still going to have that argument after what we've seen, I just don't see how I'm going to jump on board with the Marv stuff. Next question was from DRV in the chat. I guess he's a Chargers fan. He's got the Chargers logo on his Discord, so he will be watching the playoffs closely tomorrow. He says he's got a rebuild team with barely any starter value. Would you trade away the 101 or 102 or make the pick? And if you prefer trading, would you rather get one cornerstone asset or two elite ones? So low value teams, I'm absolutely going to shop those picks, especially because it sounds like you're probably looking at another year of tanking and rebuilding this team. Possibly, if you're really that starved for value, that's probably where you're going to be at. So I'm absolutely shopping those picks. I think the ideal scenario would be to move back in the first round and then add another future first, right? Just push some of that value out into the future, get that guaranteed value accrual with the upside for that also to be an early pick. So something like 101 for 104 and a 2027 first, right? If that's something that the market will let you do, that's something I would look to do, because you're separating out one asset into two, which is already going to give you more opportunity to gain value. But then by pushing that other pick into the future, you're upping the uncertainty, the variance of that pick, and you're giving yourself the chance to potentially get another early first later, plus the one that you still have in 2025. So yeah, I'm definitely shopping them. I wouldn't just say like, oh, you have to trade them at all costs, because sometimes people just don't want to pay fair value. And I do suspect there's going to be a healthy gap between Genty and everyone else for me, at least as it stands right now. And so I'm not just going to say, well, I have to trade back from 101 no matter what. If people aren't willing to recognize the difference between 101 and 103 or whatever, you just take Genty. When he comes in and lights the earth on fire, you can go trade him to someone then, and you can make your profit then. As far as targeting players, I don't think buying an elite, like superstar player with your rookie picks is really going to help your rebuild, because you're just transferring the value from a rookie to an established player. And yes, that player is going to score points for you, but you're still not going to have enough players to fill out that lineup. So I think I'd be more likely to spread out my bets, send that first off for not just random dart throws, but send that first off for 2, 3, 4 players that you think have reasonable shots to gain value in the coming season, and see if you can really exponentially improve that team and fill multiple spots with one asset. Okay. Yella also asked, he said this might be a later, quote unquote, later question to answer, and that's probably true. But I'll give a preliminary answer, or the question is, what 2025 firsts are we trading for future picks? So are we moving a pick like the 108 for, a random 2027 first would be the question. And that is definitely going to depend on how the class shakes up for me and where the tier breaks land. Like last year, there was a big tier break after the 108 when you got into the Worthy, Thomas, Ladd McConkey range. Obviously, those guys panned out well, but I thought there was a big drop in terms of the prospect profiles. This year, I don't know where that's going to be. I'd say right now, I'd be comfortable trading the 110 for a future first without even, without really looking at the class. I would do that sight unseen, especially... I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, 110 or later, I would trade for a first. Anything earlier than that, I'd like to wait and see how this class shapes up, how the projected draft capital looks when we get into mock draft season and stuff. Nico, appreciate it. Welcome in to the stream. I don't know if this is your first one or not. I feel like I've seen your name before, but always appreciate the shout. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. Rowboat, definitely still team Trevor Lawrence. I still think he's good. He's probably going to be a target for me in the offseason. A guy where I don't have a lot of Goff or Baker, but if I do, that's a target for me where I'm like tearing down and picking up pretty much whatever I can get, because I really do think he's good. I don't think there's any risk surrounding him in terms of his future. He has a superstar wide receiver, and he has a chance to land a really good head coach, even Ben Johnson linked to them. So, yeah, I'm still team T-Law. I will absolutely, I am ready to get hurt again. All right, question from Nate. Says, how to value each rookie pick in terms of base firsts before landing spots. So for those of you that don't know, I do have the ranking. If you haven't looked at the rankings, you should, because if you're watching this, you probably have access to the rankings. If you don't, if you're just in the breakout tier, if you go up to Superstar, you can access the rankings through Discord. But anyway, the rankings have values for players in terms of base firsts, and which is a first that is, it's a hypothetical first that's equally likely to be early or late. And so Nate wants to know, how would we translate that into this year's rookie picks? So that is definitely something I'll have more clarity on once I have kind of my early rookie rankings. I would say the 101 right now, which is very, very likely to be Ashton Jeanty, is probably around 2 base firsts, probably a little bit less than 2 base firsts. And then for me, the 102 is kind of uncertain right now. I would say it's probably closer to 1.5, maybe a little bit less than 1.5. And then after that, we'll see. 103 could be close behind. You know, if we get that 101 quarterback, they're going to have a lot of value right out of the gate, even if I'm not super excited to draft them. And the value of the pick is not exactly the same as the value of the player that would go with that pick, because the part of the benefit of the rookie pick is that you have that flexibility right up until the time that you are on the clock, where you can then flip that asset for something else. And so where I rank the pick in the rankings is not necessarily where I would rank that exact rookie. So once we get closer to actual rookie season, probably after the NFL draft, I'd say, just because it's so uncertain before that, after the NFL draft, I would probably be sorting in the actual rookies. That's when I will be sorting the actual rookies into the rankings rather than just the picks. So let's go back around here. Yellow Dog says Trevor Lawrence is your Kyle Pitts. This is absurd. This is offensive and egregious. Trevor Lawrence has been so much better in the NFL than Kyle Pitts. I might have to revoke your membership for this. I'm appalled by this. Nico says, this is a great discussion to walk in on, weighing trading DK for the 108 on a team. Why I have too many startable guys, hate making lineup decisions. Yeah, I would absolutely do that. I mean, how many more mediocre seasons in a row does DK Metcalf have to have before we have a serious conversation about it? JSN is the wide receiver 1 there now. Whether it was offensive line related or not, that's just how it is. The team is a little bit uncertain in terms of its future. Geno Smith, as much as I think he's a good quarterback, it seems like there's some chance the Seahawks want to move on from him and do something else. If they bring in like Sam Darnold, that's not going to make things better. If they draft a rookie, that's really not going to make things better. DK is getting, older. He's going to be 27, maybe 28 next year. So I would rather have the 108. I think he's in my late 1 tier. That is a little bit better than what I'd consider a late 1. So give me the pick there. But just now that Kyle Pitts is on my mind, I just need to circle back to what was happening in the chat the other day when we were talking about Kyle Pitts. I just want to kind of explain my case here, if I can remember it exactly. Apologies if I got heated at all, Nate. I know I was arguing with you a little bit. I really like to just dig my heels in when I feel like I'm right. And I think I'm right. But Kyle Pitts, his first year was awesome, right? So the prospect profile, the rookie year, incredible. And it looked like the sky was the limit for Kyle Pitts. And then year 2 comes around and he really underperforms in terms of his production, but his peripheral numbers were really strong. He had a really high air yard share, target share. His ADOT was crazy. It looked like he was getting kind of God tier tight end usage, but Desmond Ridder was just too incompetent to make it work. And then he gets hurt. So at that point, it's like, okay, guys, this is the buy low opportunity of a lifetime, right? We know Kyle Pitts is incredible. He's got this injury. He should be fine next year, but he's got this injury right now. They're going to get a new quarterback. He's going to be amazing. And I was all in on it. I was totally in on it. I was buying him everywhere I could. Year 3, he comes back out. He still has a bad quarterback. Who was their quarterback in his 3rd year? Was it still Ridder? I guess it was still Ridder. Yeah, because he had Ryan his first year, then Ridder, and then Ridder/Heineke. He was still bad. But this time, his peripherals weren't unbelievable. They were pretty weak as well. And the film analysts were like, he can't turn right. He doesn't look explosive. And everybody was like, well, that knee injury, he said that knee injury was lingering through the offseason. It's clearly because he's not healthy. And so year 3 comes and goes and he still sucks. And everybody's like, yeah, but he's going to be healthy this year. This year he's going to be healthy. And I'm like, yeah, this year he's going to be healthy. It's got to be that, right? Because he was so good before the injury. It just has to be the recovery. So we go out and we buy him again this offseason, right? And he's not as valuable as he was before, but he's still expensive. He's right there around Brock Bowers in startups. He's ahead of Mark Andrews in startups, ahead of George Kittle. Let's go out and get Kyle Pitts. This is going to be the year. Okay, this year they bring in Kirk Cousins. Notoriously, PPR scams TJ Hawkinson into a top 3 tight end in Dynasty, right? Not makes Justin Jefferson, but supports Justin Jefferson as a top fantasy wide receiver. Throws 10 touchdowns to Jordan Addison as a rookie. That quarterback comes in. Drake London has a career year. Bijan Robinson has a career year. Darnell Mooney has a career year. Kyle Pitts sucks. He's terrible. He has like 2 good games the whole year. His first read target share is in the pits, literally. They don't scheme up anything for him. He's a total afterthought, check down option. He's hardly different from Tyler Conklin. And yet, people still want to tell me, after 4 years now, that we're waiting for this to actually pan out, with no excuses. He's had 2 years to recover from this injury. He's had multiple offensive systems. He's had multiple coaches, multiple quarterbacks. He's got 600 receiving yards this year. He barely scored more points per game than like Austin Hooper. And somehow I'm supposed to think that this guy still has upside, because he was good in college and he has a high RAS score. And I reject that definition of upside, because 90+% of what upside is actually just the ability to earn targets, which he does not have. He does not have it. So it's not that you can't roster Kyle Pitts. It's just the argument was, would you rather trade him for the 208 in a rookie draft, or would you rather keep him? And the argument was like, well, I'm going to keep him because he has upside. It's like, no, I disagree with that. The rookie you're going to get in the rookie draft is not only going to have more upside, because frankly, anybody has more upside at this point, or anybody has equal upside, because I have no evidence that Kyle Pitts has upside, but they're also going to have less downside, because rookies are much more insulated in terms of their dynasty value. So I don't see any reason to value him over a 2nd-round pick at this point. If you want to hold him over a 3rd-round pick, I think that's fine. There is obviously some percentage chance that he goes to like a new team and they use him differently. Like I'm not taking anything off the table. I just don't think it's rational to like bake that into his price anymore. Like if he becomes, there was a comparison made to Evan Ingram. If he gets to be what Evan Ingram cost when he went to the Jaguars, which was like a 4th-round pick, like you could get him in the 15th round of best ball drafts, sure, that's fine. We can throw a dart on Kyle Pitts. But I do think it's worth mentioning that Evan Ingram, outside of the 2021 season, when he was inexplicably awful, I don't remember if he was injured or what, he had better peripherals than Pitts has over the last 2 seasons in all those years. So I think it's pretty Jover for him. I think he's just Noah Fant now, where he got the 1st-round draft capital. He had the athletic profile. Everybody was excited after the rookie year, and it just never really came together. That's what I think we're looking at here. And so I'm not trading a second for the new Noah Fant personally. Anyway, that's my Kyle Pitts rant. I'm glad I could get that off my chest. Thank you for listening to that. I do have one more question here that was left. Let me just get to that one, and then we can jump into any other topics you guys are interested in. Mad Eye MD asked, are there any early players that you would want to avoid that you think will be dropping multiple rounds in startup drafts after next season? He says we can call them Deontay Johnsons or something. So Deontay Johnsons. So basically just players that I think are going to bust next year or flop in 2025. So I would just rather avoid them now. Kyle Pitts would certainly be one, because I think people are still going to prop his value up a little bit. And by week 2 or week 3 next year, it's going to fully crater. I would put Dalton Kincaid in that same conversation. Maybe not to the same extent, but I think people have one more offseason of making excuses for Dalton Kincaid left in them before things really fall apart and everybody realizes that he's just Mike Gesicki. So Dalton Kincaid would be a guy I definitely would be avoiding. And then some older players, Alvin Kamara is a guy that always makes me a little bit nervous just because I'm just not sure how good he is anymore. And the Saints are just like this black hole of salary cap where they're going to just like eventually completely collapse. And so that organization is sketchy to me. Kamara being 30 years old is sketchy to me. Calvin Ridley, he's 30 now. He's probably going to have a rookie quarterback next year. He's a guy who just seems to disappear at times. I'm unsure of how good he is because he just like sometimes he'll do nothing, and then sometimes he will have these huge games out of nowhere. But I think bringing in a rookie quarterback is just might neuter the offense a little bit, and I don't know how many more effective years he really has left. And he wasn't even that good this year outside of like a 1 month stretch. So if people are still putting stock in him, I'd be pretty happy to just ship him off for a second round pick as well and re-roll that. But other than that, I don't have a lot of Deontay Johnsons. And also, I would buy Deontay Johnson personally. I mean, we'll see. Maybe he comes out tomorrow for the Texans and just balls out. But if he doesn't, his value is going to be so insanely low this offseason. Why not? I mean, why not send out a late pick for him if you can get him? He's been a good target earner in the past. I think he could potentially bounce back in a new situation next year. And I think I missed some chat here because Yellow was absolutely spamming about Kyle Pitts. Let me see here. Big B said, what value draft pick wise would you put on running backs like Corum or Algier, a backup elite running backs? Right now, this time of year, not much, because the odds that those guys they benefit from an injury in the next 8 months and see their value increase is like super duper low. And they're not really going to be any harder to acquire now versus in season. So, I mean, a third round pick probably is the most I would say. Definitely not more than that. Because like, I don't know, now that Corum's had an injury too, and he's already like 25 years old, or he's going to be next year. It's just like, it's like, how long are we going to wait? Right. You're really the only thing that they are giving you is that contingent upside if someone gets hurt. And again, that's not going to happen until the season. So I would wait. Frielster, who's one of our newer members, one of our newer league winners, actually, had a question about teams that are in between rebuilding and contending and how to get out of the middle of the road in terms of value. And that is such a tricky question. I am planning to sit down and put my thoughts down and do a video about like transitioning from a rebuild into contending. So I don't think I'm going to have a super good answer right now, because what I keep coming back to is just like, find a way to win trades. And like, that's not advice. I know that's not advice. It's just the way that I handle myself in that situation is like, I am trying my best to find the managers in that league that are going to give me advantageous trades that I can possibly use to like claw myself out of that situation. But really the answer is that you need to find a way to generate value, right? So whatever that looks like, you need to generate buying power for your team so that you can improve your roster. And so we know there are different ways you can generate buying power, right? You can acquire draft picks and then wait, because those draft picks are going to gain buying power over time. You can invest in rookies, as we've seen this year. Rookies can be cheap to start with, and then they can become incredibly valuable very quickly. So I think you want to, on a team like that, I think my actual answer is you want to take shots on rookies. You want to have surplus picks in future years, and then you want to just kind of build like the cheapest competitive roster that you can, right? So if you don't, sometimes you just need to tear it down. But if you think that you're kind of towing the line, try to construct the most cheapest, most fragile competitive lineup you can. See if you can sneak into the playoffs and do it. If not, you have a quick pivot to go ahead and just tank for the season. And in the meantime, you've got your rookies, you've got your lottery tickets, right? You've got your draft picks, which are like your savings interest account. I think that's the answer. That's how I would see it. Let's see here. Peter says, is it a good idea to trade my 111 for a 2026 first? Yeah, we actually just talked about this. I would be trading 110, 111, 112. If you can get a future first for those picks, I would just do it because the upside is just so much higher. I think we got spoiled this year with Brian Thomas and Bo Nix and Xavier Worthy and Ladd McConkey. It's not the norm. I mean, you can hit in that range, but it's not normally that strong. It's not normally that consistent throughout the whole range. So I would just go ahead and move on from that pick and take the future first, even though it doesn't feel fun because you don't get to draft anybody. That's how I would handle it. HM, do you watch other Dynasty channels? I watch some. Not all of them, not a lot of them. Big Channel had Bucky as a sell. I usually just like to trust what you say. Hey man, I appreciate that. I would love to know which channel it is. I will say, not that I want to like throw everyone under the bus or whatever. The Dynasty nerds, first of all, stay away from them. I swear, like I never see a take from them that I agree with. I can't say I've watched much of like the Dynasty Domain guys, so I don't know about their takes. I think that the one guy on the BDGE Dynasty channel, the guy with the beard, the older guy with the black hair and the beard, the South Harmon guy, he's pretty sharp. I think Ron Stewart's pretty sharp. You guys know I like Jacob Sanderson, JJ Zacharyson, Dynasty Points. Okay, so it was Dynasty Domain. Yeah, so I haven't watched much of their stuff. I just don't find them very like interesting or entertaining personally. It's just like not my cup of tea. Yeah, I mean it just depends on what Bucky's value is, right? I don't think he's going to be a sell personally because I don't think that the market's going to buy into him enough as a smaller day 3 running back. That's not the type of player that the market tends to chase and like drive up in value. So my guess is he's going to be either properly valued or even undervalued this offseason. I mean, they gave Rachaad White 0 touches last week. The Bucks did. Like that's a lot of faith in Bucky Irving in a must-win game as a rookie. The guy is insanely good. And I don't think the team's going to invest in running back having Tucker and White under contract next year. So I don't like anyone's a sell for the right price. And certainly I don't think running backs are untouchable. But what I do think is that he should probably be ranked as like a top 6 running back for seasonal leagues next year. And he'll be 23 on the second year of a rookie deal. So if you're a top 6 redraft running back and you have contract security and you're young, I don't know why you wouldn't be valued as like a top 5 running back, right? So I don't think he's a sell personally. Always subject to change, but that's how I would take it. So they were saying to take advantage of tier value, not because he isn't good. They use Stroud's value as an example. Yeah, see, I don't really get what I mean, I haven't seen the video, so I don't want to like misconstrue them or say that they're dumb or whatever, but like I don't see how there is any correlation between CJ Stroud and Bucky Irving. Like it's not even similar. Like first of all, it's very uncommon that we see a rookie come out and have an incredible season like Stroud did and then regress to this level in the second season. So like just off the bat, you shouldn't be assuming that is like a normal thing. But then especially at running back, which is such a volume driven position, it's not even really possible. Like if he's going to come out next year and be the guy, he's going to be the guy. Like he's going to get the touches. I haven't seen anything that would suggest he's going to forget how to juke. He's not going to forget how to break tackles. So I don't see any connection to Stroud. I would say if anything, it's much more similar to how Devon Achane came on last year. And people were sort of hesitant to really crown him because there was another running back in the backfield, because he was smaller, because he didn't go in the first 2 rounds of the draft. I would say it's much more similar to an Achane situation where the people will try to talk themselves out of it, as opposed to whatever it is that they're saying. So that is where that's where I would take it. I'm just seeing here, I'm scrolling back up to see if I missed anything. Oh, I did want to throw this out there. Robo says some of the other channels throw out hot takes and hope it hits. Paul has value in his takes. Hey, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm glad that people see that, because like not being a hot take artist is very much something that I try to avoid and try to pride myself in. So I am glad that that is coming through, because I know I do say things confidently at times, or maybe I say things that end up being wrong or they sound bold, but it's always like there is a reason behind it. So yeah, absolutely appreciate that. I did get through all of the planned questions, so I'm gonna fill out my playoff bracket here. Like I said, just something I wanted to do for fun to kind of end the stream out, but you can feel free to jump in with any other questions as you wish. Let me just jump over to the other view here. I found this little app on, someone had made this on Reddit. I couldn't find any other bracket, like interactive brackets that were easy to use, but this one's kind of cool. So this is how I'm gonna how I see the playoffs shaking out. We'll see if my predictions end up being right. I'll screenshot it for accountability's sake. But starting over here on the right side, the NFC side of the bracket, I have, so my birds, pretty confident we're going to go ahead and take out the Packers in round 1. I think our secondary is just going to be too good for the likes of Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks. I do not think that Josh Jacobs is going to be able to do it all himself. Jordan Love's not even fully healthy, and I just don't know what answers the Packers defense is going to have for Saquon Barkley. AJ Brown too, with J.R. Alexander, I think, is out. That might be wrong. I don't remember. I think he is. Either way, I think Eagles take that one for sure. Below that, I think the Commanders are absolutely live to win this game. I think it's totally possible. As far as I'm concerned, I am grabbing the Buccaneers here, though. I just think playing at home, Baker has, as cliche as it is, found a way to win games. I think both teams have really suspect defenses, but I think the Bucs have an advantage in the wide receiver department. I think they have an advantage in the running back department, and I think that'll be enough to potentially win in a big shootout against the Commanders. I have a real question here, so let me go ahead and answer that. Oh, wait. Oh, that was the other question you asked, wasn't it? Should we be looking to down tier on rebuilders now or wait until the rookie draft? So I guess this concept of down tiering is like a thing in the dynasty circles of like trading a player, trading down a tier, picking up value. I usually don't get involved, or I usually don't like such umbrella terms as down tiering. I feel like it's very like player specific and situation specific. So if you are rebuilding and you have high value assets, well, first of all, the question would be, are you saying you're a rebuilder, like you're going to be rebuilding next year, like you're tanking in 2025 and you're already rebuilding? Because that is something you should definitely be cautious about. Like immediately deciding in January that you're rebuilding, you don't really get anything out of that. So I would say at least be flexible for the next couple of months and give yourself optionality just in case something happens that you don't expect. You don't have to tear it to the studs. You don't have to tear your team down to the studs in January. Like you can just stay flexible, see what happens. If you're like so sure this team just doesn't have it and you need to rebuild, okay, then yes, I would say you can go ahead and sell your assets. But my main goal would be picking up draft capital. So if that means you are tearing down to a player and getting a draft pick, sure. And then you would just down tier from that player and that player and that player until you just have the picks. That would be fine. You don't have to wait until the rookie draft, because honestly, the longer you wait till the rookie draft, the harder it will be to potentially get 2025 picks. But you can go for the future years as well. I do like doing that. All right, so the other game on the NFC side, Vikings Rams, is the hardest one for me. I really don't have a good feel for it, but I don't want to pick all favorites, and I do genuinely think the Rams have a chance here to take this one down. So I'm going to take the Rams over the Vikings. You know, they got kind of embarrassed last week on Sunday Night Football. They have to travel. They have to travel out west, go on the road for this game. I know the Rams are also on the road in Arizona, but they played this team really close the last time. Stafford has what it takes to win a game like this. Like he can play like a top 5 quarterback at times. So I think they've got a shot, and I'm going to pick them here. And then on the AFC side in the wild card round, Bills over Broncos. Don't overthink it. Ravens over Steelers. Don't overthink it. These teams are too good to go one and done in the playoffs, and the teams that they're playing against, frankly, just are not very good. The Broncos limped into the playoffs. I know they scored 38 points on the Chiefs' third stringers. They lost 3 straight before that. Bo Nix is a good story. Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims are not getting it done against the Bills. It's just not going to happen. And then Russell Wilson has been absolutely horrible for weeks. Like he's totally cooked. The Ravens are going to dog walk this team. I don't care about division rivalries, whatever. They're probably going to win by 10, at least. And then I do actually feel pretty good about the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to beat the Texans. It's certainly not going to be a blowout, or at least I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think that the Chargers are going to win. I think they're the better coached team. They have the better quarterback. They have the better defense. I just think that they are going to outclass the Texans, I think. And I'll be happy. I'll be happy to see Justin Herbert win a playoff game, silence the haters a little bit. Then it gets interesting in the divisional round. I'm going to take the Lions to beat the Rams. They're going to be rested. They're going to have Montgomery back. They are going to go absolutely insane on offense. Ben Johnson's going to have 2 weeks to come up with the absolute sickest trick plays you've ever seen in your life. I guarantee you the Rams-Lions game will have at least one fake punt. I think that the Lions win. And then on the other side, it's not a homer thing. I think the Eagles finally get over their Buccaneers bugaboo where they just can't. They get trashed by the Bucs every time they play. Finally have A.J. Brown healthy for one of these matchups, along with Barkley, the home field advantage. I think the Eagles take out the Bucs. Finally, we get a really exciting conference championship matchup on this side. Over here, I'm taking the Chiefs over the Chargers. That feels kind of obvious. As good as the Chargers have been this season, as good as Justin Herbert is, I just think the Chiefs are a whole different animal. They just don't mess up in the playoffs. Their third down conversion rate is scary. They're going to have that Arrowhead home field advantage. They're going to have the rest advantage. I just think they're going to come in, they're going to do their business, and it's not going to be too hard for them. The Ravens-Bills game, that one's going to be really tight. I think the Ravens do match up pretty well against the Bills. They took care of them pretty easily early in the season, like 35-10. Jacob Sanderson was talking about the Bills linebackers being an issue, and I understand what he's talking about. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble containing Henry and Lamar throughout the game. I just don't know if the defense is going to have answers for those guys. So I think it's going to be Ravens, Chiefs in the conference championship game. Nico, why would you even say this to me? Honestly, why would you? This is like a horrible thing to say to me. You should feel bad. Go sit in the corner. Going back to the NFC side, this is where my homer run ends. Because honestly, I don't think that I would pick the Eagles to beat the Lions, especially not in Ford Field. I'm picking the Lions to go to the Super Bowl. I think they just feel like the team of destiny this year. I just don't know how. I just don't know how they lose. I mean, I know how they lose. It's that their defense is just can't stop a nosebleed, and the Eagles get out to a lead, run all over them. That's how they would win. But I do think that the Lions would win in that matchup. And on the other side, I want Lamar so bad. I want Ravens, Lions, Super Bowl so bad. But. Patrick Mahomes in the conference championship game, dude is just lethal. He's lights out. He just finds a way, doesn't make mistakes. I wish it wasn't true. I'm tired of watching the Kansas City Chiefs play in the Super Bowl every single year. I mean, it's just sickening to me. Unfortunately, they're just that good. So I think that the Chiefs and the Lions are going to the Super Bowl, personally. That's what I have on my bingo card for this year. And that's what I've been trying to draft Chiefs and Lions in playoff best ball. And I think in the end, Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Ben Johnson, they get their Super Bowl win over the Chiefs. I think the Lions offense is just too innovative to be stopped by the Chiefs defense. And I don't know if the Chiefs can actually keep up in a shootout. I don't know if they can do it against the Lions. So that's what I'm doing. Probably dead wrong. Probably not even close to what's actually going to happen. But that is my story. No, rowboat. Noah Gray is not the next Travis Kelce. Get out of here. That's ridiculous. All right. There you go, guys. That's my bracket. I'm going to wrap things up here for the day. Appreciate you guys coming out and watching. It's been more and more fun in recent weeks when we have like 7, 8, 9, 10 people hanging out. I enjoy it to, when it's more of a conversation. But keep it coming with the good questions. And I will try to keep coming with the answers. So enjoy the playoffs this weekend. If you have a team you're rooting for, I hope they win. Yella, sorry about your luck. I'm sorry you have to be a Cowboys fan. That's unfortunate. There's still room over here. There's still room over here on the Eagles side if you want to bleed green. But otherwise, guys, yeah, just enjoy the games. I will talk to you all soon. Have a good night.